15 book recommendations if you're getting started with non-fiction. So I have categorized them into like 6 different categories, and these are 6 categories that I have read a lot of books in the last year. So, and I have tried to categorize these books is, within each of these categories, you will have a book that's beginner level, that is something that you can read if you're just starting out your reading journey, a book that you could read which is at an intermediary level that would take in terms of difficulty comprehending the message in the book, probably it's going to take a bit of time. And the third category is a pro level, which is obviously it might not be a great choice to start with if you're just getting started with non-fiction, right? So that's what we're going to be speaking about. So feel free to toggle around between sections if there is a category that you're more interested in. So the first category that we're going to see is helping yourself with your creator journey, right? So when it comes to creator journey, all of us have a ton of doubts around, hey, is my idea going to be valid? Who is going to be my target audience? Who am I serving? What I want to speak about this idea isn't already spoken enough, and all those sort of things. And Steal Like an Artist by Aston Kleon kind of shattered all these doubts for me when I started my YouTube journey a year and a half back. So if you're someone who's just getting started with both your content creation journey and your reading journey, I think this book beautifully fits into that persona. It's a very easy read. Probably you'll end up finishing this in 2 hours, and it's packed with a lot of insights that I probably anyone who says I'm starting my content creation journey, I give this book to them. So if you're a beginner in the content creation journey and your reading journey, Steal Like an Artist is like a great book to start with. The second book is again by Aston Kleon, is Show Your Work, which speaks a ton about the hesitancy that we have in showcasing our work, and why you should always create for a target persona, and how you should go about overcoming the fear of judgment by yourself and your audience. And it kind of speaks about this beautiful aspect of creator journey, right? So if you're someone who, I would recommend this book to someone who has been somewhat into the content creation journey and they are still facing some self-doubts. So the second book on this list is Show Your Work. And the third thing, this is one of the first books that we reviewed on this channel, is The Dip by Seth Godin, right? So this dip speaks about this concept called how anything that we start, right, any businesses, any content creation journey goes through this initial dip where we feel like we want to give up. That's when our fatigue is hitting. That's when our brain is saying, hey, you know what, you should give up on this content creation journey or your fitness journey or whatever the good habits that you're trying to do before it starts to go up. And Seth Godin in depth discusses a lot of strategies on whether it is a dip versus are you setting up yourself for failure, because there is a big difference between you undergoing a dip versus you setting yourself up for failure. So what are those differences? And he discusses a lot of these tools and tactics. So if you're someone who is accustomed to reading a bit and you are just thinking, okay, should I quit versus should I continue, this is a great book to kind of give you that perspective. Moving on to the second category, which is the self-help category, right? So self-help, rightfully so, a lot of people are very averse because, I was speaking to a friend the other day and she was describing self-help as this industry where someone is always telling us, push hard, do this, do that. And sometimes it feels like, they are the chief evangelists of this hustle culture, right? But employed right, and you taking the right kind of lessons and right kind of books will ensure that self-help books give you the perspectives and lessons to unlock the problem that you're going through. So I'm going to speak about 3 books that helped me in my self-help, self-improvement journey over the past 2-3 years. At the beginner level, we have this book called The Compound Effect, right? So Compound Effect is, is an amazing book. Again, we have posted a review about this on this channel, which speaks about the magic of compounding, not just in terms of money, but across all aspects of life, right? In terms of job, in terms of money, in terms of habits, in terms of mental health and things like that. Smaller changes done on an everyday basis and how it leads to a larger effect, right? So this was very, very important for me because I was very irregular with habits. I was very sporadic with my YouTube posting. I was very sporadic with my diet and things like that. And it really helps you internalize this concept of compounding, which I feel is very, very important when it comes to self-help, right? So if you're just getting started with self-help, you can start with the Compound Effect. The second book, which is, again, I haven't seen a lot of recommendations around this book on the booktuber community or generally when we speak about non-fiction, but this is a book that I personally love, which is Hell Yeah or No by Derek Sivers, right? For the uninitiated, Derek Sivers, he also runs his blog, where his writing is very, very succinct, very direct, and at times so profound and hard hitting that you feel like, oh my god, okay, it is actually very simple. Why am I complicating a lot of these things, right? So Derek Sivers speaks about saying yes to things where you feel a hell yeah, or you shouldn't be doing it at all. So either you do it with 100% commitment, knowing that it's going to be a hard journey, it's going to be hard fought, it's going to get difficult, but you still have that internal and intrinsic excitement that you want to do things with. So unless you have that hell yeah feeling when you think of a task or a project or a work, never get into it. And this kind of helped me kind of eliminate a lot of things from my life, because if you followed my journey for the last 1.5 years, I'm someone who I had my own struggles with doing a lot of things, getting started with a lot of parallel things, doing things, trying to be a superhero in everything that I do. And now I've cut down my projects and my, daily schedule to things that I absolutely enjoy and that give me energy, and say no to everything else by default. So if you're someone who is just, started with self-help and you're looking to take it to the next level, hell yeah or no would be a very, very, very underrated recommendation. The third one, I think, is probably the most recommended book on the self-help industry in the last 3-4 years, especially post the pandemic, is Atomic Habits by James Clear. So if you're someone, who has started self-help, you have some bit of grasp on reading, and you're looking to regularize your life or put a schedule to your life and stay consistent with your habits, stay consistent with your food habits, health habits, mindfulness habits, and things like that, this is a great book. And mind you, it's not an easy read, especially if you're someone who's starting out. So I would recommend you warming up yourself with 1 or 2 books before you get to Atomic Habits, to appreciate the level of insights, appreciate the level of practicality, and appreciate the level of nuance that James Clear has gone on to ensure that you stick to your habits. So I wouldn't recommend anyone's book to be first book to be Atomic Habits, but if you've read 1-2 books and if you're looking to upskill yourself when it comes to your habits and how you live your life, Atomic Habits is a great book to get started with. The third category is productivity and time management. And why is it my favorite category? Because my YouTube journey started because I wanted to be a productivity YouTuber. Again, who cares about what I wanted to do? But anyways, in order to ensure that I was using my time effectively, I was focusing on the things that I do, and I was doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing at work and at my personal capacity. I started reading a few books because I had a lot of problems, and trust me friends, when I say a lot, like I was all over the place at the start of 2020, and I didn't know how to have a perspective on time. And I hinged on a few books to give me that perspective. And that first book that I read was The One Thing by Gary Keller. So it's a great book that speaks about how majority of your results, be it productivity, be it habits, be it learning a new skill, comes 80% of the results come from 20% of your efforts. So how it is important to lean on 1 or 2 things on your life, dedicate your time and energy to that, and ensure that you're staying consistent with them over time. And it also speaks about how productivity is always about a trade-off, because personally I used to face this problem of, okay, I want to work out, I want to meditate, I want to do I want to be productive at work, and I want to spend time with family, and finally also want to do some walking, and I also want to do YouTube video. You see how many things I'm trying to stuff in a single day, right? So this book gave me the perspective that, hey, it's okay to have a trade-off, it's okay to go off your schedule once in a while, but it's important to return back, and it's important to prioritize what you're doing. So it's a great book if you're someone who's just getting started with your productivity and time management journey. The second book that we are going to speak about is Hyperfocus, right? Again, so Hyperfocus, Deep Work, these are 2 books that I would say are books that are cousins. So Hyperfocus predominantly speaks about the biggest struggle that today's generation faces, which is focusing on the task at hand. How many times have you caught yourself? Again, this is a question that I ask you folks as to, if I were to ask you, hey, how much time do you spend on your phone? How much time do you spend on speaking with your friend? How much time are you focused on listening to the other person who is speaking with you? More often than not, the answer tends to be, I don't know, or we throw up a number that is drastically different from what the reality is. So Hyperfocus basically made me understand the fact that, when I'm focusing on something, for example, if I'm shooting this video, I'm not thinking about, what am I going to be doing after this shooting. oh my god, okay, what are the things that I need to buy for the grocery for the next 2 weeks and stuff like that, but rather focus on the task in hand, which is speaking about this book at this point of time, looking at the video, and I'm far more likely to complete this video much faster rather than trying to wander my brain to multiple tasks, right? Because multitasking is a big no, especially on things that requires a lot of our attentional space. And what is attentional space? Read this book to find out. So again, if you're someone who's an intermediary, you know the basics of productivity, I would recommend you pick up this book only then. Don't start with this book because it might be slightly overwhelming for someone who's just getting started. The third book on this the productivity journey is a slightly philosophical book called The 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Bookman. I hope I'm pronouncing his name perfectly. So this is a great book because all through this productivity journey, there was this time I got into a zone where I wanted to stuff in a lot of things. I'm doing a lot of things, not knowing what am I running for. So this book, the main lesson that I took away was to embrace finitude, which is to say, hey, you know what? This is what I am not going to be able to do everything that I possibly want to. For example, for the longest time I had the wish that I wanted to travel X number of countries before I turned 35. For the longest time I used to think that, I have to produce 100 videos within this period of time. So when I'm taking these goals, I have to kind of embrace that I might not be the best husband for my wife, or I might not be a great co-worker to my colleagues, or I have to acknowledge that I might not be a great friend to folks in my social circle. So if I am going to take this trade-off, yes, I will be able to publish 100 to 150 videos. But the mistake a lot of us do is to squeeze in a lot of things without kind of paying heed to the other priorities that are there in our life. So this helps you see productivity from a very philosophical and a very practical angle. Again, I wouldn't recommend you read it until you finish the other two books, or read like 3 or 4 books on productivity. You've practiced some productivity practices and you're hitting that zone where you don't know what else to do, or you feel like you're going towards a burnout. This book will come as a welcome relief for you. The next section we are going to be speaking about is finance. And to get started, again, I haven't seen this book being recommended in a lot of booktuber community or non-fiction community, is The Richest Man in Babylon. And this book was probably written a couple of years back, probably a few decades back. And for me, the most surprising thing, friends, was how a lot of the investing philosophy that were true back in the day are still true now. So if you're someone who is just getting started, like you're coming back and telling me that, hey Praveen, I've just started earning money and I don't know what to do with all this hullabulla around finances, I would say pick up Richest Man in Babylon. So it still speaks about a lot of lessons that are still holding true today, which is to have some money for the rainy day, to have some multiple sources of income, to ensure that all your savings are diversified into multiple instruments. Yes, since this is a dated book, a lot of the literature and language is slightly more dated, but this covers you and ensures that you are equipped with all the basics when it comes to finances. So that's a great book to get started. So the second book is again a very popular book on YouTube, which is Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. So again, if you've read, the basics of how you invest or what to do with your money, I recommend Psychology of, the second book is Psychology of Money. The primary reason being that it teaches you the mental aspect of money, which are not a lot of people speak about. And why is mental aspect of money very important? Because it changes the way you view the world. It changes the instruments in which you save in. It changes the way you look at, what to do with your saving. It changes the way on how you use your money to buy things or save things and stuff like that. So how you think about money depends a lot on how you grow up with money and what is your perspective on money, and a lot of decisions we take is kind of dependent on that. And this book goes into depth discussing all the psychological aspects of why you treat the money the way you do, right? So it's a great book if you're someone who has just started your financial journey and you want to level it up. The third book that I'm going to recommend is The Intelligent Investor. It is an age-old book, probably the book that was recommended by Warren Buffett, which speaks about various investment philosophies, how you should never be forecasting, or you should never be guessing what the price of a stock or a company would be, and how you should take a very rational and slow and a very steady approach to becoming rich. So if you're someone who's just thinking that I need to invest for 5 years and get rich, this intelligent investor book is going to break all those myths for you. So I highly recommend. Again, it's a slightly more difficult book to read, so I wouldn't recommend it unless you have read like a couple of books before you get into reading Intelligent Investor. The next section we are going to look into is Memoirs and Reflections. Again, this is a category that I'm trying to read very recently, and the first book that I'm going to recommend if you're just starting out is The Little Prince. It's a great book. In fact, I love the quote at the back of this book, which says, all grown-ups were once children, but only few of them remember it, right? So this book is, it makes us remind our childhood. It makes us remember how innocent kids are. It makes us remember how non-judgmental kids are. And as we grow up as adults, we come with all our prejudices and judgments and things like that. And it's a very beautiful, heartwarming, and a very calming book. And if you're someone who's just looking to get out of this self-help, productivity, finances, and create a journey, and you just wanna sit, relax on a Sunday afternoon after a brunch and then read something, probably you'll end up completing this book in 1 or 2 hours. So it's a great book. Again, probably I've reread it like 2 or 3 times already, but I can't recommend it enough, right? And the second book that I'm going to recommend is The Boy, the Mule, the Fox, and the Horse. I posted a review about this on our channel as well. So it's a book that speaks about hope. It's a book that speaks about mental health. It speaks about seeking help and all those sort of things. It's a very heartwarming book with a lot of beautiful drawings, cartoons, and things like that. And if you're someone who's looking for some kind of a hope in your life, if you're looking for a silver lining that's going to leave you with some happy tears, or leave you with a feeling of the feeling of having a blanket on a cold Sunday evening, it's that kind of a book. It's a warm hug by the author to you, so I highly recommend you see that book. And the third and the final book that I'm going to recommend in this Memoirs category is Memoirs and Self-Reflections category is Tuesdays with Maury by Mitch Albom. Again, it's a book about a professor who is diagnosed with a terminal disease, and he's in his deathbed, and he reflects on his life with his student, right? And they speak about a ton of things like money, relatives, family, death, emotions, a variety of things, and giving back to the society. What are cultures, subcultures, and stuff like that. And it was fascinating for me about how, as someone who's very forward looking, having 30-40 years of life ahead of us, how we view these things versus how a person who is in his deathbed is viewing these things, right? So how we view money is very different from how a person who is going to die in a few days is viewing money. How we view the community and subcultures is very different from how a person in his deathbed is kind of viewing it. So again, if you're someone who is just getting started on the self-reflection journey, spiritual journey, and things like that, I wouldn't recommend you start with this journey. So start with something very light, something very heartwarming that makes you, eases you into this world, and then probably pick this book up. The final category, I didn't have a lot of book recommendations, but I wanted to include this book, which is Upping Your Social Skills, which is How to Win Friends and Influence People. So I didn't know where to fit in this book, honestly, but I really feel like if you're someone who's just getting started with the non-fiction journey, this is a must-have on your shelf, right? So as you can see, from the age of this book was got by my dad a couple of decades back. It's probably he has taken our notes. I'm going to end up taking a lot of notes and things, and probably I am sure if you read it, you will also end up recommending it to a lot more people. In fact, I read this once last year, but this year I'm not reading it, but I'm rather studying it at this point of time. I'm taking notes. I'm seeing how can I implement it in my real life. How can I ensure that I'm applying it in my official office. How can I apply it in my personal relationships? How can I apply it in my social engagements and things like that, to ensure that I'm applying lessons from this book. So it's a timeless classic. Didn't know where to fit in these 3 or 4 categories, so I highly recommend you pick this up. So this wraps up our book recommendations for beginners. So in case you're going to end up picking up one of these books, do let me know. Until I see you in the next video, this is Praveen Ramesh signing off.